reach out into seeming nothingness and have inspiration right in front of us. I love that. You know, where is the internet? Where is that? Is it here? Is it there? Is it everywhere? Is it nowhere? Is it just something we all made up? Is the internet really the one mind? Nothing to do with what I'm talking about. You have some notes that I want close. Living in an abundant universe. I have to confess that the original topic I had for this talk was the high price we pay for thinking small. But you know, there's the whole turn away from the condition and not focus on what you don't want and don't give power to the things that you don't want to have experienced in your life. So I thought I would flip that around. What is the opposite of the high price we pay for thinking small? It's living in an abundant universe. Much better. Thank you very much, Cheryl. Much better. And so I'm focusing on this idea of abundance, and I've had a great week. I just want you to know that these trips to the beach every 8 weeks, they're not vacations. They're all of our days off that we never took by working 7 days a week, mostly 24 hours a day, until we get to the end of the 8-week cycle, and then we go to the beach. But we had a wonderful week. We flew down first class. One of the perks of all of John's travel miles is that we're getting, and you know, the power of intention, is that we get upgraded a lot into first class. And I found I like first class. I like that. And now we have a pass to the Delta Sky Club, so we can go in there, and you know, they have all of these snacks, and they have things that you can drink, and these nice cushy places to sit while you wait for your flight, and they won't even let you miss your flight. They'll come and tell you it's time to go to your gate and get on your plane, just in case you space out a little bit. So we flew down to Miami. We got there very late, something about weather and planes. And we got there late. When we went to the rental car agency, it was after midnight, and they didn't have any of the cars that we had reserved. So they had to upgrade us. We had this great big car to drive around. And remember, when we go down to the beach, we do a lot of moving because we actually have a storage container down there. And we've got umbrellas and windscreens and beach chairs and towels and blankets and coolers and masks and snorkels. We've got all this stuff down there that we need to put in our vehicle, and then we drive it to the beach so that we have got all this stuff that we might possibly need at any point in time so that we can have the best beach experience ever. So I had this wonderful, wonderful beach experience, but my point in going down to the beach this time was not to play and to have a really rockin' and rollin' time. It was really to heal. I was willing to let go of whatever residue I was still holding on to from our trip to New Orleans, when many, many people, I'm not sure how many, and probably to say 200 or 300 would be an exaggeration or not, of us left that conference in in New Orleans with some kind of a bacterial respiratory infection. And I guess that the closing down of Religious Science International and United Church of Religious Science had some releasing to do in all of us. And so we were releasing, and before we went down, I was affirming God is in the antibiotics. There's nothing wrong with allopathic medicine. If you need it, you know, take the pill, do the treatment. Ernest said, if you need the aspirin, take the aspirin. God is all that there is. And then we went down to the beach to rest and to finish that healing process. And nature was so great for us because we got down there and looked out. Now, we have a room at this resort. It's at any particular floor, but it's the same room. And the bedroom has a solid glass wall that has a balcony and then looks due east onto the ocean. And then there's a living room, dining room, kitchen area that has a solid glass wall that overlooks the pool and looks down the beach facing south. So we went into the bedroom and looked out, and even though it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, you could see a lot of white out there on the ocean. The white is the top of the wave. When the wave is really high and rough, as it falls over itself, and you can see it even in the middle of the night. So we looked out there and we tried to open the door. like gale force winds out there, and we realized that it was rough. It was a rough week, which is great. It was rough on the ocean. It was gentle for us. Because instead of feeling this drive that I have where we've got to get out to the beach and I've got to go swimming and I've got to do that, instead of that it was, in the words of Reverend Christie, We didn't even go out to the beach a few days last week, but we watched it from our beautiful glass walls and watched the storm clouds come in and the rains come down and all of that. It was perfect for us to sleep, for us to rest, and for us to heal. And one of the things that happened when I was getting a little bit bored was that John had work to do. He's president now. He's got his whole job thing going on. And I decided I was going to go shopping. Now, I love to shop. I love to shop, so off I went, charging out into the greater shopping area of Dade County or South Florida, whatever you want to call it. And I found myself buying some great clothes. I found some wonderful slacks that fit me because I seem to be going through a wardrobe change. I found some shoes, and you know how much I love shoes. And I was in this line in this store waiting to check out. And there were people who make me look like just a softy shopper. They had bags and bags and bags of stuff, and the lines were very long. But that was okay. I had no place to go. What was I going to do? Go charging back out to watch another rainstorm? I was fine. I was shopping. I was having a good time. I had a cart full of stuff. Yay! And I'm waiting in line, and I noticed this woman kind of come up from the side. Just kind of come up from the side and mosey up to a couple that were in front of me. And she looked like she knew them because she was looking at them attentively and kind of nodding when they spoke. And we had some delays in the line. And finally the line moved after about 5 minutes. And she looked like she belonged up there by then. And the couple moved ahead and she just kind of slipped in between my cart and them. I went, oh, she's butting in line. I felt like I was in junior high or elementary school, right? No butts, no butting in line. And I laughed at myself and I said, come on, Barbara, where have you got to go? You're shopping, you're having a great day, you're doing what you love to do. And surely you have got the time to give this person, whatever her story is, if you have an opportunity to be generous, take it. And so I started giving her a lot of love. And then because we were still just standing in line, I'm thinking about what is that mindset that has the whole butting in line process happen. And you know, nothing is ever on the outside, it's always about us. So I'm sitting there going, what inside of me still has a budding consciousness? What is it inside of my consciousness that would attract that person? You know, there are many lines here, and there may be budding going on in other lines, but I was the one who had it right in front of me, not two people in front of me and not behind me, right in front of me. What's going on inside of me that has that idea that I've got to take, that I've got to push my way in life, that I've got to try to con the experiences around me with falseness, going up and talking to these people that she didn't know, and then slipping in like no one would see. What is it inside of me that still does that? And because we're still standing in line, I have ample time to think. I was thinking, well, what is this whole idea of lack? Because anyone who feels like they need to butt in, anyone who feels like they live in a competitive universe, anyone who feels like there's a win-lose experience going on is coming from a basic sense of limitation. That there's not enough, that there's a lack. And this was so obvious. Well, maybe there's not a lot of time for her. Maybe she feels like she's in a hurry. And so there's a lack of time. Well, Barbara, how are you still experiencing this idea of lack, a lack of time in your life? What do you do when you make up a story inside of your head that says, I don't have enough time? And I knew it just like that. When I experience this idea called a lack of time, what I do is I slack off on the way I want to do things. I hold myself to a high level of excellence because I like it. I like to do things well. If I'm going to do something, I want to do it well. But if I have made up a story that says I don't have enough time, then I will let it slide. I'll slack off. I'll move into the good enough. And like that great book, you know, the biggest enemy of great is good. Because it's good enough, so it'll never be great. So I move into that idea that says, well, I'll slack off and I won't bring my best because I've made up a story that says there's not enough time. I'm living in lack of time. And I said, that's true, but also what's true in that whole scenario, for me, maybe not for you, is that sometimes I'm a hard taskmaster. Sometimes I have this idea that says I have to do it all. But not only do I have to do it all, I have to do it perfect. I have to do everything exactly excellent. Instead of, maybe the flip side of that creation of the story of there's not enough time is really that intuitive part of me saying, this isn't yours to do. But because I have trouble with that, because I feel so much like, you know, I need to measure up, I have trouble accepting that it's not mine to do. I'll make up a story that says, well, I can't do it anyway because I don't have enough time. I don't know if you guys ever do this or if it's just me. Maybe there's a higher truth going on that says there's some intuitive wisdom that says this is not mine to do and that my time would be better spent helping facilitate how it is supposed to be done. Usually by someone else, not by me. Maybe there's a greater wisdom that if I would stop the cycle of beating myself up, holding an unrealized expectation of perfection, I'm already perfect, how can I be perfect, and creating a story that says there's not enough time and so that's my excuse to slack off, maybe if I just stopped that whole cycle of abuse and neurosis and said, what's really going on, there's a greater wisdom coming through, then I would be able to handle things better, more calmly, more clearly, which is really the level of excellence that I want for myself. And then I thought, what else might be going on with this idea of pushing in life? Because we all do it. You know, the light turns yellow. How many people slam on the gas? I can make it, I can make it, I can make it. Get out of my way. Honk, honk, honk. Oh, no, that was Florida. But what other types of this idea of lack, this small thinking, this limited thinking that keeps us from living in an abundant universe do we give ourselves? What kind of stories do we make up for ourselves? How about a lack of love? We're created out of love. There's only love in this moment, in this place. I remember who I am. There's only love. And yet we can, in fact, think that there is a lack of love. It's fascinating what happens to us when we think there's a lack of love. We humans do not do well with no love. Babies in orphanages back in the 50s, they had food, they had shelter, they had clothing, but they didn't have any love. Nobody touched them. They died like crazy. And then they had quote-unquote retarded people, people who have chosen to come into this life with a different viewpoint, most of which is love-oriented. They had them come in and they had them hold the babies. And the babies lived. We do not do well without love as humans. It makes us crazy. And so if we have a story going on that says there's a lack of love, what we do is we go through this whole psychological dance. We get very defensive. You ever notice that? Someone says they don't like you, they don't love you, or you perceive that because they just looked cross-eyed or they didn't hear what you said, or they didn't act out the way that you thought they were going to, and all of a sudden you're defensive. And we don't do well holding that defensiveness in, so what do? We attack. We're going to smush them to smithereens. We're going to give them what for. We're going to move into that. All because we don't do well with love, without love. If we could stop in that moment and realize that whatever's going on, even if this person is not loving us, come on, there's, what, 7 billion other beings on the planet that are potential lovers? Right. And that we can move into an awareness of love, and then all of that upset dissipates. It's fascinating to me when I meet with couples. I love to talk to couples because it's such a riot. Here you got someone that you're committed to loving, and because of all kinds of psychological dances that we do, we have managed to tell ourselves a story that we're not getting loved for whatever reason. And then what we do is we fight with that other person in some vain hope to get love. Have you ever gotten love by fighting with someone? Maybe you've gotten negative attention. Maybe you've gotten a little upset, a little drama fix, some adrenaline hit. Maybe you've gotten that, but you've never gotten love from fighting with someone. And when we can take it back to this idea that says, I live in a universe of love, I'm created out of love, everybody is love, all there is love, then we don't have to go through that big dance. We don't have to fight our way through life. Because there's not only love, there's plenty of love. There's way more love than we could ever connect with. It might be this idea of a lack of energy. Maybe this woman thought that she just couldn't stand in this line because she's barely making it through the day. You know, she had to go out and go shopping, and now she's got her stuff and she's just, God, oh. You know, if you tell yourself you haven't got any energy, you won't have any energy. If you tell yourself you're barely making it through your day, you'll barely make it through your day. And yet you can change that story in a heartbeat. You can hear from someone that you love that you haven't heard from in a long time. The Publishers Clearinghouse could come knocking at your door. You could win the lottery. Somebody could call you up and say they're going on a trip and they would need you to come with them. All of a sudden you've got all this energy. Where did it come from? It came from the story inside of your head. You will actually release chemicals into your body that will bring you up. It will heighten your awareness. They'll fill your muscles with energy ready to go. And it doesn't have to be the fight or flight thing. It can be the happy thing. And all of a sudden, you've got plenty of energy. Consider in the morning when you awaken in this idea of living in an abundant universe, that you awaken to a universe filled with energy. You have more than enough energy to do whatever it is you want to do, that this is a great day, this is the best day ever, that life unfolds in ease and grace, and that you are up to it. And then that's what you get to live. The last one that I came up with was this idea of lack of money. I know that when people talk to me about a lack of money, it seems to just suck the life right out of them. This idea that says there's a lack of money, that there's not enough, that they haven't got enough to do what they want to do. And you know, that's just a story that we make up inside of our head. The same thing as with love, the same thing as with time, the same thing as with energy. When we make up a different story about money inside of our heads, our life gets filled with money. The first thing to do is to change the story in our head. Look around this room. Look around this room. You are in the top percentage of wealthy people on the planet. I don't care what your retirement is. I don't care how much money you've got coming in. I don't care what's in your bank account or your pocket. You right now are in the top percentage of wealthy people on the whole planet. So think that way. If you don't think that way, you start to pull back and hold on. Well, I'd like to get this, but I think I'll buy something off the dollar menu just because I think maybe I should save that extra $3. No, go out. Have a good time. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You might as well go out feeling good. When you hold back, when you keep it, you get constricted. Now, what happens when your heart holds back? What happens when your intestines hold back? What happens when your lungs hold back? It's not a pretty sight. But you know, you got to be willing to let it go to get more. It's like take a deep breath. Hold it. Don't let it go. Might need it for a rainy day. Don't let it go. Let it go. You got to let it go to be able to accept more. And the way you do that is you change your story. That there is plenty. There's plenty to go around. I do not want to pay a high price for small thinking. I want to live in an abundant universe, and we can do that. We have this great teaching that says what we think about, we create in our experience. We do it through the law of attraction. We bring in things. Oh, this is all the stuff you learn in class. You bring it in through this idea of the law of attraction. You do it through the idea of cause and effect, that your thought is cause to your experience. And so if you want a different effect in your life, you have to set a different cause in motion. That there's this thing called the law of the universe, universal mind, and we have an impact on it with what we think, what we feel, and what we do. And when we think and feel and do things in a certain alignment, in alignment with our intention of how we want to live our life, we create that. We get it by first changing how we see the world. Don't be somebody who butts in line. Don't be somebody who lives in a competitive universe. Don't think that because someone else got something, you're somehow diminished. Celebrate that. Celebrate that. You got that contract? Great. There must be a better one for me. There's more than enough to go around. Don't be someone who looks at someone and says, oh, you don't love me, well, I want you to be miserable now. No, celebrate them. Took me a while, but I practiced it with my first and second husbands. To see them in the arms of someone who loved them. That wasn't me. To see them being loved exactly the way that they were, without someone trying to change them. I had to practice that so that I could be in the arms of someone who loved me, just the way that I am. I have been in relationships with people who didn't like my flamboyancy. Don't try to put a lid on Barbara. It's just not going to happen. So when I could change that inside of me and want them to have what I wanted, even at the time when I didn't think or know how that was ever going to happen to me, I got what I wanted because I gave it away. You do not live in a universe of lack. And if you find yourself doing something, like cutting somebody off in traffic, like feeling something's been taken from you, remember, nothing that is yours can ever be taken from you. And the flip side of that is you cannot keep anything that doesn't belong to you. Nothing that's ever yours can ever be taken from you. So if you feel like something's been taken from you, celebrate it. People come into my office and they say, I got fired, and I go, yay! It wasn't your job. If it was your job, you'd still have it. They come into my office and they say, oh, so-and-so left me. I go, yay! If that was your relationship, you'd still be in it. Let it go. Wish them well. Be in that flow of life. Know that there's plenty for everybody. And when you do that, you set this universal law in motion with your thoughts, with your feelings, with your actions, and it creates in form that which you want to have. I love this teaching. Ernest says you don't have to have it all together. Thank God. He says all you need to do is have your life be getting a little bit better every day. That's all. Just have your life get a little bit better. Be a little bit happier. Be a little bit more joyous. Be a little bit more generous. Have a little faith. You've made it this far. You really are going to be okay. Abraham says it's all about the feeling. That if you wait for a circumstance to make you feel better, you're never going to be able to change the circumstance. That you've got to be able to feel better in the middle of the circumstance that maybe you think you don't like. Feel better right then and there, and then you unleash all the power in the world to change that circumstance. You are not an effect in your life. You are not a victim of anything. You are cause to your experience. You are the captain of your ship. You decide your destiny. You choose what you manifest. It's up to you by creating on the inside that life that you want to live. And for me, I want to live in an abundant universe where there's always more than enough. More than enough time, more than enough health, more than enough love, more than enough joy, more than enough money, and I'm not willing to give up that universe for anything, and so it is.